Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. We're going to give a couple seconds here for folks to file in, as we're expecting a few. And Krista Donald, our wonderful program coordinator, is letting everybody in as we get everybody warmed up. But applicants, you're going to see a number of kind of a variety of faces that are on here, and there are a lot of our current faculty, Department of Surgery leadership, some alumni as well, and a bunch of residents. So a lot of folks here to be able to answer your questions about the program. We're really excited that you're willing to take the time, and I know you all have many choices in coming to these sessions, and so we really appreciate you taking the evening with us. I know you all are inundated with these sessions. I'm sure it's been overwhelming and probably even hard to keep track of everything. Hopefully you're taking notes. So as we let a couple other people filter in. For those of you who don't know, I'm Paul Wise. I'm the General Surgery Residency Program Director. This is my 7th year doing this, and while we're all obviously experiencing an unprecedented time and unprecedented recruitment season, we're excited to kind of try some different things this year. So this has actually been a fun way to get to meet applicants before we normally get to meet them. Usually we're meeting everybody after the release time and the review time, and then coming here for interviews. So it's actually been a lot of fun to get to meet folks ahead of time. So certainly made this a unique experience. So we'll go ahead and get started. As I said, I'm Paul Wise. I'm the General Surgery Residency Program Director. We're really excited to have you here. For those of you who didn't get an opportunity to be with the first session, we have that recorded on our website. We had a session about living in St. Louis. And that's one of the things that we're incredibly proud of. It's really a great town to live in. There's a lot of opportunities, but the best thing about this town is its affordability. And so most of the residents own homes or have the opportunity to do so. And so certainly by all means, feel free to ask them about that. But great food scene here now. It's really picked up over the last few years. Obviously a great sports scene here, although the Cardinals got their butts kicked last night. Hopefully they'll still make it into the playoffs. We'll see how they do. And obviously home of the soon to not be still Stanley Cup champion Blues, but about to have a new crowning here coming up soon. Yes, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. The session that we had 2 times ago was about St. Louis, but the last session we had was about flexibility and surgical training. And that's one of the things that we've been focused on here for years. We're incredibly proud of having focus on flexibility and training, meaning you all get to design your training program here. So especially in the last 2 years of the residency, allowing to pick and choose your rotations for the most part. We make sure that you get a great base of general surgery experience, so you can talk to the alumni and the senior residents about their experience in focusing on the flexibility and training. And some people have done incredibly unique things. Dr. Sanford's on, who did kind of a mix of transplant and HPB. We've got others on the call who've done some really unique things with their training. And so, so lots of opportunities here related to that, but also flexibility with what we're going to talk about tonight, which is research and the academic opportunities. Obviously, this is one of the top hospitals in the country and one of the top schools of medicine in the country. So you marry those 2 things together, and this is a top general surgery residency training program. And within that, the opportunities for research here, I think, are second to none. And really just as limited only by your imagination. And Dr. Fields, who's our associate program director, who's focused on research, is going to talk about that. He's also the chief of surgical oncology here as well. But he did research time here and knows the research landscape like the back of his hand. And so he can really help to guide folks to have amazing experiences. The other opportunities here are the things that I think set us apart. The simulation lab that we have here, it's one of the oldest in the United States, but it's also one of the best funded and best supported in the country. And the opportunity to sit at the robot console and be able to actually work with the robot in the simulation lab, to have animate models, cadaveric models, to have team training, interprofessional training, and non-operative technical training is amazing. And so every week the residents are in there. Obviously with COVID, things have changed a little bit, but we're back into the labs and the team labs, and we've been doing those the last few weeks. And our curriculum residents are also on the call and can talk to you about that and the experiences of setting that up. But mentioning the curriculum residents helps me to underscore the fact that this is a resident-run program, and the residents are involved in the curriculum committee and help to run that, to set the educational experience for their colleagues. They also are actively involved in the program evaluation committee and other aspects of the program when it comes to wellness. We have a residence advisory council that get together to help guide the plans and experiences for the residents here. And that is incredibly important to us in the surgical leadership to make sure that this residency program is what the residents want it to be. So everything from the flexibility to the leadership aspects of the program is really focused on the residents, because they're the reason why we're here. We have an active mentorship program. As soon as you match, you're paired up with mentors at all levels of the residency. So you've got kind of big SIBs as well as faculty. So you're paired up with faculty members. We try to make it such that they're faculty who share your interests. That's our goal. But we recognize that really that helps to get you started here. But mentorship is an organic experience. It can't be something that's forced. And so we want you to be able to meet and interact with the faculty. And it's really in the research years that we're going to talk about today where that mentorship really sets and the roots start to grow, so that we're able to take you to the next level of your experience as you go through the senior years of your residency and determine your fellowship plans, assuming you're going to go into fellowship, and then beyond that. And so it really sets the foundation for that when you first come in, but then as you continue to grow through the program. And so you can talk to the faculty during your breakout sessions here tonight to talk about that mentorship experience. But it's so much fun to see the alumni here and to see where those mentorship experiences have taken them. And so it's an incredible strength of the program to have those kind of opportunities here while you're here with us. The clinical experience, the depth and breadth of the clinical experience is second to none. There is really no weak area within the program. And there are some of the chiefs of the various different services, from Dr. Hawkins in HPB to Dr. Warner in ped surgery, to Dr. Fields, whom I mentioned, to Dr. Chapman in transplant, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. Every section, every group is absolutely amazing. And the opportunities to be able to get both the mentorship support, the research support, and academic support, as well as the clinical support to go to the next stage in your training. You are ready for anything by the time you're done training here. Even if that's going into community general surgery practice, which we do have some of our trainees who do, but the majority go into the top fellowship programs across the country, and then on to some of the best academic jobs across the country and the world. So we're incredibly proud of that. But what really makes this place amazing is the people. All the people you see here on this Zoom tonight are, they're the reason why being here is fantastic. From the students to the residents, to the fellows, to the faculty, getting a chance to work with these people is what makes being at WashU so incredible. And so we're really honored to have you here tonight to learn more about that. And we again appreciate your willingness to take time from your busy schedules and trying to focus on your sub-internships, et cetera, to learn more about our program. That means a lot to us, so we appreciate that. Well, I want to introduce Dr. Klingensmith. She's our Vice Chair of Surgical Education. She's also one of the recent past chairs of the American Board of Surgery. We're honored and privileged to have her here. She was one of my predecessors as program director and really set the stage for the research experience, the flexibility experience, all the things that make this place great. She really helped to set that up. And so we're honored to have her here tonight. Mary, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Hi, everybody. We're glad that you could join us. This is my 21st year on faculty here. As Paul said, I was residency program director for 12 years, became vice chair for education in 2011, I think it was. We've had remarkable success here because of the people that we have here. The faculty that we have here are unparalleled in their breadth and depth in terms of their specialty, their knowledge, their national and international leadership status. And that's just on the clinical side. On the research side as well, we have phenomenal people, and we will be talking mostly about that tonight. But when we're in our breakout groups, if you do have questions about the clinical opportunities or some of the flexibility and training opportunities, which we talked about on our last Zoom that we hosted, feel free to ask those questions in our breakout groups. I'm looking forward to those of you who will be in the Med Ed breakout room, and we'll talk some more about that. I will turn this back over to Paul, who I think is going to take us through the next little phase of our program. I look forward to meeting some of you.
Thanks, Mary. I appreciate that. Now, I know Dr. Everline was traveling, and I know he was going to try to get on. I will see if he made it on. He was going to say a few words. I don't see him on, so I don't think he was out of town. So he sends his regards. He'd hope to be able to try to join us, and he may be able to make it towards the end. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Well, without further ado, I'm going to let Dr. Fields take over. He's our, as I mentioned, Associate Program Director, but also the Chief of Surgical Oncology. And he's the one who will start meeting with you early on after you match to have, start to kind of lay the groundwork for what the research experience that you want to have is going to be. And so I'm going to let him take over. I see you there. Hey, Ryan, thanks for being here.
Hey, I just echo everything that's been said so far, and welcome everyone. I'm going to be pretty brief because I think everybody's going to really jump into their breakout rooms and get some information on their interest. But I'd like to just highlight a few things that get at some of the questions that were submitted beforehand. The first, there were a lot of questions about funding and how we pay for the resident research experience. The short answer to that is that's my problem and not your problem. And what I mean by that is, in my 7 to 8 years of really doing this, we've never had a resident who had a really good idea and a good project and a good mentor that was well thought out that we've said no to. And that's a testament to the department and the research strength here. There's a lot of people on this call. Dan Kreisel in CT surgery, who is the PI of a program project grant. Bill Hawkins, who's the head of our SPORE grant. Will Glanders, who's not on, but is the head of our T32 training grant in oncology. Dr. Kolditz, who's right now the head of public health sciences. A lot of people with a lot of well-funded grants who run a lot of training grants and programs. And then for those areas that are underfunded or unfunded that don't fit in a training grant, we fortunately have a department that's in very good financial shape that has a priority to support resident training and research. So short answer, let me worry about that. You find the project, find your passion, find your mentor. And that kind of gets into the second theme that were a lot of questions is how do people figure out what to do? Do they just keep doing what they had some interest in medical school, or how do we pair people up? And that's kind of where I come in around this time of year of your intern year. I start pinging all the interns in the second years to sort of be thinking about their research project and pair people up with interests and mentors. And sometimes it's real easy. We get a resident that comes through that says, I was born to be a pediatric cardiac surgeon and I want to work with Dr. Agdasady, and I've known that since I was born, and that's okay. We just make sure it's really going to work out. And then you get some people who come in and just have no idea what they want to do. But we're generally able to match people's interests up with really, really good mentors. And that includes experiences outside of WashU, if that makes sense, whether that's a separate program. For example, we had a resident who went to this very prestigious biodesign and biomedical engineering program at Stanford several years ago. So when those types of opportunities come up, our residents are in great shape for that. I'm going to kind of leave it at that so that we can get to the breakout rooms here shortly. I just put in the chat my contact information. If there are things that aren't covered, feel free to reach out anytime. I'm hoping that everybody gets a lot of interest and gets a lot of their specific questions answered in the breakout rooms with some of the great faculty and current residents in the lab and in the clinic, and a lot of our alumni. So it's great to really have the perspective across the spectrum.
Thanks for that, Ryan. I know we've got Connor Callahan's on tonight. He's up in Canada doing the PEDS CT research up there. So if you want to ask him about that unique experience. And I think Jess Lindemann is on, or she's going to be on this evening, and she got her PhD in South Africa, just came back and is currently on colorectal surgery. So we're enjoying beating her up on that service, my service. So, well, I know Krista has mentioned to me that she's ready to do the breakouts. So if you haven't had an opportunity to do the breakouts, you want to stay in the main room. We're going to have a few residents who may stay there. I think, Krista, I don't know if you were going to have Dr. Klingensmith hang out there and Dr. Everline, if he makes it, to hang out in the main room in case you're not really sure what you want to do with your time here and you just have some questions. I'm going to have a breakout as well. So I'll be able to talk to a few of you as well. And then Ryan was good enough to put his email in there. I'm going to put mine as well. So of course, if you send it to Ask Surgery, we'll reply to you there, but that's my email address. And I think some of the other faculty and residents may end up putting their email addresses in there as well, and some of the alumni. So if you want to reach out to them, by all means. But if you have the Ask Surgery at whistle.edu, if you lose our email addresses, you can always reach us through that. I look at that, Krista looks at that, and some of the other folks in the Office of Surgical Education. So they'll get it to us one way or the other if you have questions. So again, welcome. Thank you very much. And Krista, if you want to take it away and start sending people their breakouts, that would be great. Thank you.
So for those of you who are here in the main room, we have some of our residents here that you're welcome to chat with, or if there's a specific breakout that you wanted to go to, you can just drop a note in the chat to me and I will move you over. So.
Or the default leftover room.
Yeah, I guess so too.
Which is fine. I'm Kelly. I'm one of the 5th year general surgery residents. I came here to do CT surgery. I dual applied in cardiac integrated and the 4-3 programs. And I just matched for surgical oncology in Miami. So if you want to talk about flexibility in surgical training, I'm a good person to talk about how you can abruptly change your mind halfway through.
I would say my name's John Mitch. I'm a alumni of the program. I graduated in 2015. I'm currently a colorectal surgeon. I did some fast track or flexible in training in colorectal fellowship at Leahy. And I have a basic science research lab. And so I worked in macrophage recruitment to tumors as a T32 fellow at WashU. Now I have a career development award through the VA. So I have a funded research lab and looking at myeloid activation and T cell exhaustion in colorectal cancer, sort of specifically.
I can't tell if or didn't see any other residents. I'll speak up. My name's Alston. I am I guess 3rd year in the lab now. So did 2 clinical years and am in my 3rd year of 3 in the lab. Kind of working jointly with Dr. Hawkins, who's one of the HPB surgeons here, and then one of the kind of basic science researchers, a PhD guy that has his own basic science lab, Dr. DiNardo. I'm kind of working as a collaboration between Hawkins and DiNardo lab. My project is looking at dendritic cell suppression, so kind of immune therapy and pancreas cancer.
Hey, I'm Brad Krasnick. I'm one of the PGY4 residents, or actually clinical year 4 residents, PGY7. I spent 3 years in the lab with Dr. Fields and the HPV group here doing, surgical oncology in general based research. So both basic science and clinical. And I'm interested in both surgical oncology and colorectal, and still trying to figure that out. But had a really productive experience here. Got lots of things published and went to a lot of meetings and really had a great time during my 3 years as a research resident at WashU, and it's been a great experience.
For those of you a little terrified by the last 3 people who just talked about all of their scientific research, I skipped lab in residency. I did a bunch of research before I got here. And another cool flexible part of WashU is they let me go straight through. So Alston and I started together, but I will be making attending money while he is doing his 6 months on trauma.
Yep.
The 4th year.
Indeed.
It doesn't make that much difference, Alston. You'll be fine. You'll be fine, Alston. I did.
That's what I like to hear.
I did 3
That's
years in the lab, and I'm
that's
like
what I like to
the
hear.
co-program chair of ASCARs. Well, my co-residents that went straight through are so they're doing just fine too. But
Sure.
we all have our roles to play.
Indeed, indeed.
I got an extra year of moonlighting money.
I was gonna say,
That's
and
the big bucks.
yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I am married, and we had our first kid in January, and so the lab.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So the lab time is a great time for those of you so inclined to have a little extra time at home for things of that nature.
I actually did the DiNardo Linehan, like David Linehan
Mm-hmm.
and DiNardo were my mentors, and so that he's the chair of Rochester. That was my I think
Mm-hmm.
David DiNardo is amazingly fantastic. I
Big
love
fan.
that dude.
Yep, indeed, I totally agree. Connor, you want to talk a little bit about your experience situation?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. I know there's a lot of people on here, so I was like getting lost flipping through. But yeah, no, so I'm Connor Callahan. I'm in my second lab year, and I'm actually in Toronto working on a big multi-institutional database that's focused on long-term outcomes after pediatric heart surgery. And so I will say it was one of those sort of opportunities that came up that I applied for that I didn't think that I didn't think I would get. But I think everyone was pretty supportive about me applying and all that good stuff. And so here I am. With that said, I did not predict a global pandemic and Canada shutting their borders down. So who knows if I'll come back before next June. But no, I think, again, I think sort of like Dr. Fields mentioned, certainly there are amazing opportunities at WashU. And I think if I would have stayed, I would have been quite productive. But there are things that you kind of just can't turn down that are outside the institution. And again, there was always support with that. And so I still tune into our weekly conferences and all that good stuff now, but I'll put my email in if anyone wants to ask about that. But
Were there questions from the group, the group out there that you wanted to ask about a perspective? You have some folks in the lab, myself, who spent time in there, now out in faculty, and maybe someone who decided not to go in the lab, research wasn't for them. Are there questions from the group out there that we want to pose to the residents?
I have a question. Thanks so much for being. I'm Anna. I guess if you are unsure about what you are interested in from a fellowship perspective, how feasible is it to kind of decide a little bit later in, I guess, your intern or second year, what kind of lab you want to do and that kind of experience, I guess?
I mean, I can take that one because I had that experience, and I would say it's very feasible. I think Dr. Fields will talk to you in your first year here and start to get an idea of where you want to go and maybe put some stuff in pencil. But I changed labs a couple times, and that was really no problem. And I ended up finally doing Dr. Fields' lab, but really that wasn't finalized till right before we started, and that ended up working out fine. We were able to get the funding, no problem. And then I kind of knew I was interested in cancer, so that made that part easier. But really, it's very flexible. And even there's even people that switch mid-lab time that might change after 6 months, and that's not a problem. Everyone's really flexible here, and they just want to do what's best for you and best for your future career. So I've had that experience. And then picking a career, I'm still between colorectal and surgeonic, and it's totally fine to be a little bit delayed here. And some people know from day one, some don't. So
I would add to what Brad says. I was in the surgeonic HPV track in the lab, and then decided to do colorectal because I got it as a chief or a senior resident. I was like, I just liked colorectal better. Like, it was just kind of more fun for me. I felt like that was more my place than the pancreas, But if you do good research in the lab, as you come out, you choose something else. Like, you go in peds and decide to do cardiac. Like, there's a ton of good research options and great mentors everywhere. And so if you do good research in the lab, you're going to be well positioned to do whatever you want, to get whatever fellowship you want afterwards, because there are really excellent people everywhere that will, in each different specialty, that will help you after that. I don't know if any of you other folks have some thoughts, like Kelly, if you have some thoughts about changing midstream too.
It happens a lot that what people do their research in is not what they end up going into anyway. So hanging your hat entirely on what your research time is on doesn't really matter. I did, prior to residency, about 10 years of CT research between undergrad and med school and a full-time job. And no one in surgical oncology fellowship really cared that my research wasn't in what I was doing. They just kind of were curious to hear where my head was at when I made those decisions. And I came in, like Dr. Fields described earlier, like I was born to be a cardiac surgeon, I thought, and then I fell in love with the belly once people kind of, second year, third year, when you're allowed to actually put your hands in it instead of just watch other people do surgery. And I was about where Brad is now. So, getting into fourth year before I really had an idea of what fellowship I was going to apply to. So it's okay if you don't know yet. Or if you do know and you change your mind later, it truly, they're very supportive of you kind of changing your mind here. No one was upset with me when I kind of pulled out of the 4-3 CT program and sort of redirected my efforts. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys tell us more about the culture of the program and the environment between the residents and between all of you all?
I was drinking on Alston's porch yesterday.
Yep.
Watching his 9-month-old try to walk.
Yeah, he does not know how to sit still. Energy for days. I think being in the lab is a little bit of a different experience. And I would say in both good ways and bad ways. When you come in when I was, I guess, an intern, there were 8 categoricals and 4 prelim residents, and you're in the hospital all the time working together. And I think kind of you're going through, and just when you spend that amount of time around each other, you form really close bonds. And so, we would have a post-call brunch group that we would go, and pretty much if ever anybody was off or had some time to spare, we all lived more or less around the hospital. There are a number of different neighborhoods that people live in. But I mean, St. Louis is I would say kind of feels a little bit more like a small town. Everybody's 5-10 minutes drive away or closer. And so spent a bunch of time with people and co-residents first and second year, and feel still very closely with all the people that I started with, and then the people that you meet once you're getting a little bit further along in the program. The lab time, I think, is great because you get to kind of take a breath a little bit, and really get an opportunity to think about life. And I think those things are great. I think I do miss kind of being in the hospital and seeing people. And so I would say from that standpoint, I don't know, I've really, really enjoyed the people that I've gotten to know and meet and work with here. And look forward to having them, some more years to go. Has been my experience.
We spend a lot of time with each other outside the hospital. There are groups whose kids play together. That's not my group. There are people who do not have children who spend time, out later at places that serve more alcoholic beverages. But we spend a good amount of time together. And during COVID, when really you're only allowed to socialize with people you work with, it's great to get along with, it's good to have your friends at work.
Hello, I have one question. Do residents compete with fellows for operations? Thank you.
Sometimes. I think I'm the oldest person here that hasn't already graduated, so probably the person that's most likely to compete with fellows. Up until COVID started, I would have said no, not really. We've got a pretty collegiate relationship. There's a couple rotations where you sort of bump heads a little bit and you have to stand up for yourself. But most of the time, that's not the case. It's hard to really blame COVID. There were fellows that needed index cases to graduate, and that kind of made things a little bit harder when we weren't doing a lot of stuff. But when we have our regular times on. We've got quite a few rotations that don't have fellows, or where the rotation is split up to be a chief resident on one half of the service and a fellow on the other half of the service. That's how we set up MIS. That's how we set up colorectal. And it kind of forces it to be completely separated from them. And then if there's something that they're really interested in, you know, you might trade back and forth, which I, as a person about to be a fellow in a few more months, I'm becoming a lot more kind of in tune to that you both have needs. But in general, it's pretty good. And as the year gets later and the fellows get better, the chance as a 2 or a 3 to work with a fellow is way better than working with a chief, because they know more and the attendings feel more comfortable leaving you alone with them, and you really get kind of that promotion where your fellow is the attending and you get to act as the chief. So for every time that it kind of is frustrating, there's a time that it really benefits you as well.
Yeah, hi, my name is Aboon. I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm a PGY for, I guess, second year in lab, doing colorectal surgery research and getting a master's in population health sciences. Just to echo what Kelly said, and again, I only have the perspective of being a PGY1 and PGY2, but I've found, for the most part, the fellows here to be really great, and you do kind of get this promotion to getting to operate with the fellows, especially when the attendings are comfortable. I remember my intern year getting to do open right colectomy with 2 of the colorectal fellows guiding me through the surgery. So it was pretty great, in my personal opinion.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hello, thank you for doing this. This is Fatima. I'm currently basic science at Mass General. I was wondering, for the residents that are looking to do basic science, how much flexibility is there in terms of the topics? If they want to choose to work on some specific field, how much they are flexible? Thank you.
How much flexibility in terms of the basic science topics? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to find a mentor and your area of interest, but once you're in that area, you may have a main project, but from what I've seen, I think you can do, if you have a specific topic in mind that may be somewhat different or a little bit of a side project, I pursued several of those and there was never a barrier. If anything, sometimes there's too much enthusiasm to do lots of different stuff. So I think if anything, you're going to be like, oh no, I have another idea. I don't know if I have time to pursue it, and people want to fund it and give me money for it. So I think you're going to have the problem of having so many things that you think of and people are willing to help you with, that you have to decide which ones you don't want to do, not having a problem of finding someone to help you support it.
Yeah, I'll agree with Brad. Hi, I'm Megan Kelly. I'm one of the second year lab residents in the cardiac surgery lab, and I've done 3 years of clinical training. So my main project is a basic science translational project, but I'm now learning how to be more of a no person instead of a yes person, because I have so many other things going on, kind of, pursuing some of my own other interests. So I don't think you're gonna have a problem if you have other things you'd like to do.
Yeah, no.
Can you guys talk to us more about the evolution of a surgeon along the 5 years, from the beginning all the way to the end?
I can't speak to that, as I've only done 2 clinical years.
That's such a heavy question for
Alston's in the beard growing phase of the
right. This is the COVID.
He's in the caveman,
I got to wear a mask for the awkward beginning phase. Appreciate it. So I guess do you mean kind of how the residency, kind of what the the junior level residents go through, and then kind of how does that change as you become more senior? And I guess, I think Kelly and Brad are kind of the two that have been 4s and 5s, but I mean,
and Guyan just joined
I
too.
can
So.
swallow his pizza and answer the question since I took the other.
He's
two.
eating a lot of pizza. You mean, yeah. Looks like he's chewing.
Now I think he's perfectly not swallowing, so he doesn't have to answer the question. No one chews for that long.
Guyan's actually he's a master woods crafter. But
oh my god,
what do you call it, Guyan?
Woods crafter?
He's a surgeon on the side.
There's a word. It's
carpenter.
Called carpenter.
I knew there was a
Brad.
word.
Jesus.
I couldn't think of it.
He's very smart. He's a very smart guy.
He's good with
You'll have to take our word
the
for it.
wooden saws and
Brad
wood,
knows a lot of basic science things. He's got a very big vocabulary.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this program does a really, really nice job of what I tell applicants and what I've told applicants for the last 6 years. So I'm a 5th year. I did 2 years in the vascular surgery research lab. I know, just real briefly, I know there's a question about research and like being able to do, I think regardless of whose lab you go into or what kind of science you do or what you want to do with your academic development time, you can do whatever you want. You can do as much as you want. You can do as little as you want. Like I piloted a clinical trial that's getting published now. I actually am on a few patents as the co-inventor. I did basic science research. I did, clinical research. I think part of it is your own level of enthusiasm and finding a mentor. And this is true for all stages of your training. Finding a mentor that you are excited to work with and who is excited to work with you and also for you. Going back to the, evolution of a surgeon, I think, when you guys start, it is terrifying. I remember my first day and I was like, what am I doing here? And you feel that way for a while and you become very comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then there's like this magical transition period where you're like, I actually know how to take care of patients and how to do things right for once. Not often, but sometimes. And then I think, you progress from being an intern and learning how to take care of floor work to being a 2nd year resident, and you learn how to see consults and work up patients, and you start developing a relationship with attendings. And then for most, that sort of takes a little bit of a breather as you go into the lab. Like for Dr. Megan Kelly, she did her 3rd year and she went into the lab. So as a 3rd year resident, you are very, very heavily involved in the various consult services: colorectal, thoracic, vascular, HPB. You're on transplant as the chief, for the kidney chief. You're on peds as the peds chief. And then we spend a lot of time as a 4th year on trauma. And I think the most formative years are really your 2nd year as well as your 4th year, because I think your 2nd year is the transition between being a junior resident, sort of a mid-level resident, and then your 4th year is really where you start to take on a chief level role and you start operating, autonomously by yourself in a different scenario that may make you a little bit uncomfortable. This is a very busy trauma center. We do a lot of trauma. You can ask Kelly that we do a lot of trauma. And you get very, very good at learning to operate efficiently and quickly and also safely. And then, chief year is great. You get to make the schedule. You'll learn. I remember being an intern and be like, man, I can't wait to be a chief. I get to make the OR schedule. But the truth is, like, shit just rolls uphill, right? So like the more senior you get, everything is your problem. Everything is your responsibility. But with that responsibility comes the perks of being able to sort of create the schedule that you want to create and sort of start to craft your own, I guess, flavor or brand of surgery. Because you've seen how people do things so many different ways. So now attendings are like, all right, well, how do you want to do this case? And then you get to sort of work with them and they learn something from you and you obviously learn a ton from them. But it's a very, very unique opportunity, I think, as a senior resident on a program like this, where we do everything. And I think we do it really, really well. And so, Kelly is going to surgical oncology. I'm going to vascular surgery. Are there any other 5s in this breakout session? No. Megan is one of the fast track CT residents. Connor Callahan is one of the fast track CT residents. Who knows what Alston is doing with his life? And Brad will be like
Alston doesn't know.
Brad will be the next chairman of a department somewhere with like 5 R01s.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
All right, 4 R01s.
4, yeah. That's us.
Nice even number.
Yeah. So sorry, that was a long answer to a very challenging question, but
it was very informative, so I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Brad's goal is to chair department. My goal is to buy a boat. So we all have our, what we're headed towards.
My goal is to buy a farm for this animal, who's just been looking at my pizza ever since I started eating it.
Hi, could you please talk about the research opportunities for trauma surgery? Thank you.
None of us are doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm not doing that, but I know there are a few basic science labs with trauma surgery. One of them, actually, I guess I can count of three.
Four.
Four, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, there should be four. What they all do, I don't 100% know, but they're basic science labs. They're active and I believe funded.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think there's several.
Yeah, so Grant Bukikio is the division chief of acute care surgery. He has an R1 funded lab. He does a ton of research, especially with the DoD, like hemostatic agents, and he also has hernia research. Isaiah Turnbull is an immunology researcher. He's also an associate professor of surgery. He has an R1. And then two of our newest faculty, Mark Hufnagel and Jen Leonard, are on K Awards, and they do basic science research. But within trauma in and of itself, there is a massive amount of clinical research that we do because of the nature of trauma and because of how busy we are as a trauma center. So whether that's, like outreach programs or clinical outcomes or community involvement in things like Stop the Bleed.
Sorry guys, I got a level 1. Running.
Who was that?
I was about to say how fortuitous they pulled over Hufnagel.
He kind of like popped in and popped out.
Oh man.
Who was that?
That was Hufnagel. He popped in right as you started talking about trauma.
Look like kind of.
He's one of our trauma surgeons. He's
Yeah.
one of our trauma surgeons who has a lab. Yeah. And I thought how fortuitous that he came over at the exact moment you asked that question.
But then,
it's St. Louis, and it's a night of the week that ends in day, so somebody probably just got shot.
Probably.
And that sounds like a horribly callous thing to say, but it is a lot of how we learn to operate here. I went to med school at Michigan. I don't know that if I had stayed there for residency, a place that I love, that I would know how to handle a aorta that had been hit by a bullet, whereas here I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can just ask a quick question. Do you guys have IMGs in the program?
We do. Yeah. I mean, we take, I think this year, how many foreign medical grads do we have? At least 3 as first year prelims.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Guyan.
Oh.
Silva is, sorry, the breakout rooms just ended, so we're all bouncing back. Sorry to interrupt you there, Dr. De Silva. So
that's Dr. Wise, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Hi, if you came in late, I'm Paul Wise. I'm the program director. So Dr. Lindemann, thanks for making it. Dr. Yu, it's great to see you. Oh, I love seeing all these faces. Hi, everybody. So there were some folks who I didn't get a chance to answer your question, so I apologize, and feel free to email me, and I'm happy to hook up a chat with you separately. And then if I truncated your questions during the session, I'm happy to meet up at any time. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Dr. Fields, do you have any closing thoughts about academic experience and research here?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo a couple of things we talked about in our breakout room, and again, that were some of the themes of some of the questions, but it goes with the clinical side. Our goal is to be very, very flexible in the research training, whether that means people doing more than 2 years, whether that means second degrees, whether that means going into the lab after your third year instead of your second year. There's no absolute model to this, and we want to make these perfect matches. I just use the expression in our breakout room. We don't want to try to fit a square peg into a round hole. We want to find out what you're interested in, match you up with a great situation, and it's led to a lot of productivity. So I would just echo everybody's sentiments to, feel free to reach out to me or anyone else anytime. Happy to chat. You may have big picture questions and I can hook you up with the right people to answer the questions if it's not me, but thanks again for taking the time.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. I'm just going to show you all this. This is I have these boards up above my desk, and these are Velcro. They're the names of all the residents, and you can see they all start off in the same color group, but as they go through the years, the colors end up mixing, and you can see with some people spending 3 years in the lab. We've got people who go into the lab after their 3rd year instead of after their 2nd year, whether that's due to personal issues and family issues, or whether it's related to them kind of trying to sort out what they want to do with their lives. And so this is the only thing that keeps me sane, the Velcro board. And it's Velcro because people move around all the time, and I have to be flexible and ready for people to come into the office and say, hey, Dr. Wise, I decided I want to do a 3rd year in the lab, or hey, I've decided I want to come out early, or hey, I want to do something different. And so that's why we have to have this. And so exactly what Ryan was saying, Dr. Fields is exactly right, that's we have to stay flexible and ready to do it. And not everybody does research, but obviously the majority of people, if not all, are coming here because they want to be academic superstars, and this is a great place to launch that career. So, Dr. Klingsmith, any closing comments?
Nothing specific. I did put my name and email in the chat for those of you who might have missed the fabulous MedEd research breakout room and wish you'd been there. Feel free to email me. Happy to answer any questions.
I had put my email in there earlier. I will, as I mentioned to everybody, if you send to asksurgery@whistle.edu, but I'll put mine in there too. And then, so what we're going to do is the faculty are going to head out, and applicants, students, and the residents are going to stay. Even Dr. James with his beard. I'm loving it, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Loving it. And Dr. De Silva is going to buy pizza for everyone. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. But we really appreciate you all taking the time to be with us here tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to anybody within the group. And so we're going to leave you all. We're going to turn off the recording.